Good amount. The one I caught yesterday that was like about this big, chub, was huge.
Chub.
It was massive.
Where at?
Can't tell you. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, well,
It's over in is it the Mocontongo Creek? Yeah.
That's also a good catfish. Okay, we don't need to talk about
Getting
I
into
know,
it.
no, I'm just not about like a secret spot.
No, it's
We're
not.
gonna spend 20 minutes talking about fishing.
Yeah. No, it's no secret spot. It's really just out there. All right, so describe what sensation and perception is. So I didn't get through one yesterday, but it's all good. We'll cover it today and move on with what I wanted to get to, and I'll be good. Good to go. Booker, how's the outside? Ooh, almost. Good catch. Good catch. How's it going outside last period? Not bad. There's a lot of ruckus going on. You know, I'm not a big fan either. I mean, I like going outside, but I couldn't see. Well, they're putting up a scoreboard, it looked. That'd be cool. New scoreboard out there. And then gym class was outside, so there's a lot of ruckus going on. But we still covered what we needed to. Tuskegee Airmen, talked about the Battle Midway. Good stuff. All right, is everybody finished? Good. Okay, so what is sensation? What is that? What is sensation? What is that? What's everybody have for sensation?
I said it's the pattern of neural messages representing stimulus.
Yeah, good job. Good job. So we're sensing the world around us. We all know that our brain doesn't actually interact with the outside world. We do that through senses, through filters. Okay, we talked about some of the basic senses yesterday. Okay, and two other ones that maybe I don't think of too much, with vestibular sense, kinesthetic sense, and understanding how our body, our body placement, okay, and what type of movements we need to do, and how to keep our posture right, our balance, coordination, you name it. All right, good. And perception. What do you have for perception? Campbell, what do you have?
Elaborate on the meaning.
Yeah, good job. So our brain makes sense of what we're sensing. Oh, look at that. Sense and sense. There's some puns in there, right? So our brain makes sense of what we are, obviously, what we're taking in, okay, what we're visualizing, what we're hearing, what we're tasting, touching, smelling, whatever it might be, okay? And our brain is just really making connections, right? Whether past, present memories, especially with what we taste, what we touch, what we smell. And that's a lot of times how our sensations and our memories are linked together. Our limbic system, our sensory cortex. Okay, I know especially for me, whenever I go out to eat or something, I'm always really thinking of what I had before. Okay, what type of experience I had at a previous time. Okay, what type of meal I had. Right? Especially with sensation and memory, they're linked together pretty good. All right, is there any questions on sensation and perception? Good? All right, moving on here. Oh, vocab. How about I give you a little bit of time for vocab? I know there's quite a bit of terms there. And we'll move on then today with transduction, sensory adaptation, Weber's law, you name it. All right, so we'll move on here, and I want to get you working on somewhat of an activity. It's not going to take you too long. I'm just going to come up with different ideas of sensory adaptation, maybe that we just forget about, that we don't consciously think of. Then tomorrow, I'll have an assignment for you with subliminal messages in advertisement. Okay, so we'll talk about that a little bit more. I guess on Monday when we return, I'd like to see your guys' responses to some subliminal messages. All right, so moving on here. Let me just present. Good to go. Okay, so with the picture yesterday, you saw it, right? The flipped eyes and the mouth. Okay, with that picture. Where is it? There it is. Yep. So we could tell right away that these pictures were flipped. And maybe at first you couldn't. Maybe I was moving too quick, moving too fast. But it's how we perceive images and our visual. Our visual cues, obviously, when we're visualizing something, our brain actually flips this upside down in our occipital lobe. We're actually visualizing something that's flipped upside down, but our brain flips it right side back up for us. We'll talk about that a little bit later when we get to, obviously, vision, the anatomy of the eye, and how that's being processed. Here's another one, Mona Lisa. This one's a little bit harder to tell. Okay, with the Mona Lisa, one frowning, one smiling. Can't really tell at first. But even the eyes are flipped too. Sarah, could you tell the eyes were flipped? The eyes don't really, no, I can't either. I could definitely tell with the mouth, though. That was one of the biggest things, obviously, Mona Lisa. Is she smiling? Is she frowning? Is she upset about something? What's her emotions telling us? But in this picture, I think it's pretty cool. They actually have the eyes and the mouth flipped. It's really hard to tell with the eyes, but once you flip it over, you can kind of tell. That one looks a little creepy looking, huh? Oh, look out, look out. Yeah. So I always think that's pretty cool how our mind can play tricks on us, especially with the eyes. I could have never really tell the eyes, but the mouth, you can kind of tell that that's flipped upside down, but the eyes especially is what throws me off, especially when I flip it back over. Oh. What's that?
So the one on the right looks like the Mona Lisa I turned in freshman year.
Oh, did you have to draw the Mona Lisa?
Yes.
Did you? For Mr. Shutt? Oh.
That's an accurate depiction.
Is it? Do you have it yet? Or did you throw it out?
I think I still do.
You have to find it.
I did not burn. I didn't burn them. I kept them.
You burned it? What?
Some people did. I mean, I know people who definitely burn their history books.
What?
Everyone.
What? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
I still have those.
There you go. There you go. All right, so moving on here. So big idea here with transduction, we'll talk about it. So how our brain interacts with the outside world, like I mentioned, our brain actually doesn't do that. And we do that through senses. And with neural messaging, we already know how a neuron fires and sends information to one another in order for us to make sense of the outside world. Okay, whether it's movements, whether it's just hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, it all happens through neural communication. We talked about synaptic clefts, right? We talked about how reuptake and diffusion might occur, which allows us to send these messages from neuron to neuron, and how this travels through sensory neurons, motor neurons, or interneurons. Okay, and this communication needs to occur in order for us, with our senses, with our movements, with our interactions, to react to certain stimulus. It all happens in an instant. It happens pretty quick. But it's up for our brain to use these filters, these senses, right, to perceive the outside world around us, to understand what we're looking at, to understand what we are feeling, really, right? Okay. So transduction, that is sensory process that converts energy, such as light or sound waves, into the form of neural messages. So what we're visualizing, okay, the light bouncing off objects, which allows us to see color, okay, to see objects, to see forms, to see backgrounds, okay, whatever it might be. Hearing especially, right? So when we're hearing something, music. I know we all have different tastes in music. Lil Nas, right, and his new song. Hopefully you guys didn't see that music video. Anybody? No?
Who?
That Lil Nas, he's a new rapper. You saw it, Hannah, didn't you? No? Okay, don't see it. Don't look at it. It's getting a lot of controversy on the news. I guess he made new Nike shoes. What the heck? With the devil symbol on them, and actually an 8% of the blood or something. That was crazy. There's blood actually in the shoes.
I thought it was just
like a rumor.
I thought it was just like red food dye or something.
Oh no, not the whole shoe is, but I think whenever they made the material for it, they actually just did a little tiny drop of blood in.
Like who? That's kind of like a
yeah.
biological issue.
They shouldn't be able to do that. That's unethical, isn't it?
Yeah.
I guess it's just enough to be not harmful. I don't know, but yeah, it's a little weird. A little weird going on. Crazy stuff. The song's actually pretty cool. I like it. The music video's a little crazy. Booker, do you see it? Okay. Okay. Maybe I'm spilling out a little bit too much stuff here. I don't get in trouble. Sorry, Campbell. So with transduction, this is how the signal's being sent to our brain. Okay, like we're going to talk about it with the anatomy of the eye, the anatomy of the ear. There's always an auditory nerve. There's always a nerve that sends information to our occipital lobe, okay, our temporal lobe. This is all at the end of the anatomy of the ear or the eye, whatever part of the body, obviously, what we're talking about. And with sensation of the ear, with hearing, Okay, we're going to talk about the breakdown of how we understand and the anatomy of the ear and how this all works together for us to understand what we're hearing. Okay, how transduction works with hearing and with vision. But real quick, transduction is really just the sensory process. Okay, how we're converting this information, this energy, to make sense within our mind. Okay, and we talked about the lobes of the brain where this is being processed. Okay, with vision, occipital lobe, temporal lobe with auditory function, you name it. Sensory cortex, especially motor cortex. Okay, maybe we're just thinking about scheduling, maybe setting objectives. Maybe that occurs in the frontal lobe. This all happens through transduction, through this neural messaging, this neural firing, neural communication. So that's why it was important to talk about that, obviously, last chapter. All right, so real quick, with visualization, we're going to talk about how this is obviously visualizing through the pupil, well, the cornea, through the pupil, how that iris is going to convert the light rays depending on how bright it might be, and how that is going to be projected through the lens to the back of the eye, the retina, okay, where photoreceptors are going to send this information to the optic nerve, okay, where that optic nerve is going to send that information, that neural message, that energy, through transduction to the occipital lobe for us to understand what we're visualizing. Okay, we'll talk about color blindness as well and how that might affect some people. My dad's colorblind. They always do the color rush games for the NFL, and he can't ever watch it really. They always do like a Buffalo Bills versus the Jets. It's always like a dark green and a dark blue or red team, and it just seems like all brown to him. It's funny. The only way you can tell is by the logos on the helmets. He goes, I don't even know what I'm watching. When they all collide together, it's just a big brown blob, really. I'm like, oh, man, they're really taking it to you guys that are colorblind. Feel bad for them. You guys ever watch those color rush games in the NFL? No? Oh, my gosh, sorry. All right. I don't know what these examples I have anymore. Gosh. But anyway, I have a bunch of pictures in the slides that really depicts how maybe people that are colorblind see these different types of colors and these different types of images. All right, so the process of transduction. All right, so this happens, obviously, a physical stimulus, whether it's through vision, whether we're visualizing something, whether we're hearing something, or they're tasting, touching, smelling, whatever it might be. Okay, and then there's receptors in the organs that are actually trying to obviously detect this stimulus and try to make sense of what we are seeing. So the receptors are obviously specialized to receive these neural messages where we can understand what we are visualizing, what we're seeing, what we're tasting, touching, smelling, whatever it might be. So then the receptors respond by converting a nerve signal, okay? And they relate this really to like a barcode scanner, okay? How we sense the world around us, how this information, obviously this stimulus is triggering this information, is just sending this information to our brain where we can make sense of it through transduction. So another example of transduction, I guess you could say, is like a barcode scanner. You go to the store, you go to Walmart, you go to self-checkout, okay, all of the items have a barcode on it, except for those vegetables, right? Every time I get up to the vegetables, I always get confused. I'm like, oh, I got to weigh it. I got to type in the code for the certain vegetable or the fruit, whatever it might be, and it's just a long process. I always just raise my hand. I'm like, hey, need help over here? Need help? Usually Maria and I's there, always working at the self-checkout. You ever see her at Walmart? No? Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, but it's like transduction really works like a barcode scanner. Okay, how this process really works. Okay, it's obviously picking up a physical stimulus, whatever it might be, and that process is being sent this information through a electrical signal to the brain where we can make sense of it. The computer always knows exactly what item you scan, right? And it's really the same way how this works with transduction, how our mind makes sense of the world around us. Okay, it's amazing how it works. All right, so here's just kind of a picture describing what I just talked about. So obviously we have sensory input, and that information is being sent to the brain. Ooh, sensory neurons right at the top, yeah. And then the inner neurons obviously communicating with their brain, whatever function, whatever part, or whatever lobe where it's being processed. That information through motor neurons, through motor output, is going to react to that certain stimulus. Is going to react to that certain information or that physical stimulus that we're observing, we're seeing, we're interacting with. Okay, maybe we have to respond to something. Maybe we have to react to something. It all happens in a fast rate. Okay. I always think it's amazing with baseball players, how they're visualizing the ball, how they know when to swing, the motor movements happening all at once. Okay, especially when they're throwing 100 miles an hour. Okay, maybe throwing a curveball, a changeup. Okay, how they can visualize the ball coming in at a fast pace and actually respond to that physical stimulus coming at them. I'd be afraid of the 90-mile-an-hour fastball. What about you, Sarah? Heck no, I could never do it. No way, no way. My one baseball coach, this is kind of what made me quit. You tackle people in football, you run through people in football, you wrestle people, but you're afraid of a ball. I'm like, I don't know what it is. I don't want to stand in the batter's box when a ball's come at me, a hard ball. I don't want to get hit by it. No way. I said,
fastball. One time I got whacked in the ankle when I was done.
In the ankle?
Yeah. No, it's like you first start doing fast pitch.
Yeah.
And like the pitchers are just learning too because it's their first year, and then
yeah.
I don't know, I got cracked in the ankle.
Right on the bone here.
Yeah.
I hate that. Oh.
Right on the outside, right here.
Okay.
But I was done. That was my last year. I was afraid again.
I think that happens to every baseball player because that happened to me a lot. I always get hit right on the ankle bone. I'm like, how does this happen? It hurts so bad. It's like getting kicked in the shin, right? Man. All right, so a simple example with transduction, how we can maybe trick our senses. You guys ever do that? You close your eyes and you put your fingers up to your eyes. Maybe you have an itch and you see like a white, I guess you could say a white form where your finger should be. You guys ever do that? Try it right now if you can. Like you put your finger right on your eyelid. Okay, you can see like a white form. You can see kind of maybe like a stimulus in a way, right? You can see some sort of white figure when you press your finger against your eyelid. We all know we are not seeing anything. We're not visualizing anything, but our brain tries to make sense of it. And we're tricking our brain to actually visualize something that's not there. And it's pretty cool how that works, right, with transduction. Right? We're trying to visualize. That happens a lot with illusions especially, okay, how maybe a magician might try to trick us. We try to understand and see things that maybe aren't there. Okay, how our brain maybe plays tricks on us and understanding something that might not be visible. Always like that. Like, oh man, I can see something here when I press against my eyelid. But in all reality, we don't actually visualize it. We don't see it. We actually see that white mark, which makes our brain think we are actually seeing something. All right, so sensory adaptation. Real quick, sensory adaptation is really just how we maybe block out certain sensations, right? How we block out certain stimulus. Whether we are sitting in a room, like right now, obviously reading out the slide, taking notes, we block out the sound that air conditioner is making in the back, right? It's never stopping. It never stopped, okay? It's continuing to do that throughout the whole day. But whenever we are maybe preoccupied with something, we block out that outgoing information, that background noise, if you will, right? So in other words, in other ways, we can adapt to our surroundings and really maybe block out certain sensations depending on what we're doing. It's like if we're preoccupied with something, we just forget about the background noise, the background light. That happens a lot. Another good example is, do you think those chairs are comfortable that you're sitting in? Sarah, do you think those chairs are comfortable? You're supposed to say no.
Well, I guess not.
Yeah. But after a while, do you feel the chair pressing up against your legs, your back? No. We just, after a while, we adapt to it. Okay. When you first sit down on something like that, it doesn't look too comfortable whatsoever. Okay, like that chair. Oh boy. You sit down on that, you can feel, I got to reach around on this until I feel comfortable. Okay. But after a while, we just forget about the chair actually resting up against our legs. Okay. There's other scenarios of it, especially. I know when I'm watching a commercial on TV, well, let's say I'm watching a show and a commercial comes on, it takes me like, heck, a couple minutes sometimes. Oh, I forgot. If I have a recording especially, I can skip through these commercials. I totally forgot about it, right? I know at home too, my refrigerator makes noises when I'm watching TV. Sometimes it's annoying when it's really low, when I have the TV low. When I turn up the TV, I just kind of forget about that refrigerator making noises. It's like you adapt to your surroundings. You block out any type of information stimulus that is unwanted in a way, right? And that obviously air conditioner does, because it does the trick in here. Whenever there's no one in here, whenever it's really silent, you can hear it pretty well. All right, so yeah, sensory adaptation we talked about. Threshold, real quick. Absolute threshold, very similar to what we talked about with the maybe it's vision, right? Maybe we see something. This is that first detection. This is when we first detect and perceive that sound or that light or that feeling, that touch, smell, right? When we first walk into that pizza shop, we smell the aroma. When we first detect it, right, that is the absolute threshold. It's triggering that. Sound, right? When we're trying to listen to music, maybe it's turned down real low, we can't even hear it. But right when we detect it, that triggers our absolute threshold when we can first hear the sound. Sight as well, right? I know when I drive around, especially around here, you can see some deer every now and then. When we first see the deer, when I go out with my dad always finds them real quick. I think a lot of it because he's colorblind. He can see the movements pretty well. See the deer moving with, obviously the background colors that he sees. And he's like, oh, do you see that deer? I'm like, oh, no, not even close. But that triggers our absolute threshold. When we first visualize, first see something. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, so here's a couple examples. I mean, this is really just, I guess you'd say, estimated what we can actually see, what we can hear, the distances and the amplitude, whatever it might be. So with light, a candle flame at 30 miles on a dark, clear night. 30 miles away, and you think we can see a candlelight? I don't know about that. But that's what they say in our book. Right? That's what they say in the book. Sound, the tick of a mechanical watch under quiet conditions at 20 feet. I can hear watches go sometimes. Yeah, definitely. Sensory adaptation too. When I first tried to put on a watch, it's like, oh, this feels so awkward. You guys ever had that, like a bracelet or something? Shoes, uncomfortable shoes. But after a while, I can kind of block it out. I always thought that was interesting. The tick of a mechanical clock under quiet conditions, 20 feet. Yeah. Taste, 1 teaspoon of sugar and 2 gallons of water. Maybe. My taste buds are starting to go, I think, already. I had to pour salt on everything and pepper. Oh, I love it. Probably not healthy for you, though. Whatever. Smell, 1 drop of perfume diffused into entire volume of 3-bedroom apartment. Oh, I don't know. Yeah, I could probably detect that. I have a good sniffer on me. I can smell perfume pretty well. Axe body spray, right? Oh, man. And then touch, the wing of a bee falling on your cheek from a distance of 1 centimeter.
That's such an odd.
I know.
Yeah.
Who comes up with that? That's what the book says. So I was like, well, that has to be true. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. So yeah, so that's the touch. Obviously, we're going to talk about pain receptors here soon and how we can maybe block out a gate control theory. That's what they call it. How we can block out certain feelings of pain. Okay, especially if we have our mind focused on something different. You guys ever see the movie Major Pain? No, it's a little older movie. These kids go to this military camp, and the military trainer, right, the guy that's running the show there, he's really intense with the kids. And there's a cool clip I'll show you about it with the gate control theory. This guy's get shot up in battle, and he's like, "Oh, my legs! I can't feel my legs." He goes, "You want me to take your mind off your legs?" And he pulls up his hand, like breaks his finger. He goes, "Oh, my finger! Told you." And then he kept walking. It was kind of funny. All right, real quick, thresholds, difference threshold. All right, so this is the smallest amount of change, right? The smallest amount of a stimulus that would change. So obviously, when you're in a car, you're listening to music. Okay, you might not hear it right away. That change, that difference within the stimulus, but let's say you go up 2 clicks. I didn't really detect it. I really didn't hear a change in the music. Let's say you go up 10 clicks. Okay, right away I can hear it. Okay, I can hear that difference. And that's what really the difference threshold is. It's the difference amongst the stimulus depending on if it's increased or decreased. It could be sound. It could be light, especially if things are getting brighter. Okay, sound especially. I know that when you're trying to adjust the volume on a television, you can't really find that difference threshold. I always hate too when you're watching a movie, you try to turn it up because they're talking really silent, and all of a sudden it goes to a commercial and it's like loud as all heck, and you just jump out of your seat. Okay, I always find myself getting mad at the TV for that. Like I'm constantly adjusting it. Can't stand it. Can't stand it. But difference threshold, like I said, smallest amount of change. And that really goes interchangeably with the just noticeable difference, the JND, that's what they call it. It's very similar to what the difference threshold is. So if you see it on a test, it's really the same thing, okay? So just noticeable difference is really just that minimal amount of change. So if you're in your car, you have it at 19, you turn it to 20, the volume, you don't really detect it right away. But hey, if you turn it up to 30, you'll hear that change. Right when you hear that change in volume, that's what's triggering your difference threshold, your just noticeable difference. Heat, yeah, heat especially. I know on those cold days in the morning, oh man, you don't really detect it because you're trying to get warm. But then when you jump in your car, especially on these spring days, when I jump in my car to leave home from work, I'm like, oh my gosh, I had the heater on to 75. Jeez, it's hot as heck. What am I doing? So I just turn it off right away. Or wind down the windows. It's funny in the morning, especially in the spring here in Pennsylvania, how that works. It's like, oh man, it's so cold in the morning, and in the afternoon, you're sweating pretty much, right? All right, so laws of sensation. The only one I want you to know here is Weber's law. That's it. Okay, Weber's law. So Weber's law is to be perceived as different. Two stimulus must be different by a constant minimum percentage rather than a consistent amount. So this is percentage, how we can maybe see the difference by a percentage rather than just an amount. So a good example of this is, let's say you're buying a shirt, okay? This shirt especially, man, this was expensive. I got rolled on this one. I went to the golf store and I saw 50% off. So I'm like, oh, heck yeah, 50% off. Right on. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. So I go up and pay for it. The guy says, hey, yep, 35 bucks. I'm like, it was $70 for full price for this shirt. I could buy a suit for that. You know what I mean? This is unbelievable. I almost fell over. I'm like, forget it. But I was like, I went this far. I might as well go the full extent and just buy a shirt. I'll look like a goober putting it back on the shelf. So I was like, all right, I'll buy it. 50% off. That's probably the reason why they didn't put the price on it right away. Let's say you go, I don't know. Let's say it was $50, right? Okay, let's say the shirt was $50. I'd probably be more, I guess, I wouldn't roll over on the ground or just drop my wallet if he said it was $25 rather than obviously the 35. It's like, that's $10 difference. But when we look at the percentage difference, the 50%, we can tell that, we're getting a deal out of this. This is pretty good, right? Let's say it was just $5 off. I would have went up there, 65 bucks. What? Compared to $45. It's like, okay. Obviously, that changed a little bit different than what the percentage different would be. Okay, and that's what they mean by Weber's law. The percentage different obviously might be a little bit more of a concern depending on what it might be just with a regular amount. Okay. But yeah, I almost fell over when I saw it. I'm like, what? This was $70 for this shirt? There's nothing to it, really. It's just, it's nice. I like it. It feels good. But unbelievable. Unbelievable. All right, last thing, guys, real quick. Signal detection theory. I want to get you to subliminal messages tomorrow. Signal detection theory is really just how a sensation is really just on a background. Let's say it's a background noise. We're trying to detect it. We have no idea what it is. Okay, this happens to me a lot with my car. I'm driving down the street. I hear a clicking sound. What is that? What can it be? Is my motor going to fall out? Is my engine going to fall out of the car? Or is it just, I don't know, maybe and this happens a lot, this thing here rattles up against my car when I'm driving. My Yeti rattles up against the car. I'm like, oh, thank God it's nothing with the engine. But the signal detection theory is when we pick up on a sound, let's say we're visualizing something and we have no idea what it might be. Okay, we're processing in our brain. We're maybe thinking about the worst right away. That's what I do right away, especially with my car. If I hear a clicking sound or noise that I never really picked up on before, right away I think of the worst. That's what signal detection theory is. It's really how we pick up on a sound, a background noise that we never really, I guess you'd say, detected before, and we're trying to think of what it might be. We're confused. Does that make sense, guys? Does that happen to you all a lot? Campbell, does that happen to you a lot? Yeah? I can see you just turn the volume up on your car. Oh, I didn't hear anything. I won't tell anybody about it. Sarah, what do you think? Does that happen to you a lot? You hear a noise in your car, I'm like, what is that?
Yeah.
What could it be? What's that?
I bought a new pot and pan set that's still in my trunk. And I was turning, yesterday I was turning out the parking lot. But I thought I ran into something, but it was just a box.
Yeah. Oh,
That's scary thought.
it is, isn't it? It is. I had my golf clubs in my car and I forgot about it. And I was pulling out of my driveway, and like I'm on like a slope kind of. So when I was pulling out of the driveway, I turned and I heard my clubs just and the balls going. I'm like, did I just hit the side of my garage? Oh my gosh. So I looked back, got out of the car, looked at the side, I'm like, oh, my golf club. So that's what signal detection theory is. And like I said, it could be with many different things. It could be feeling, taste, touch, smell, whatever. But it's easy with sound. I know with sound, that's the easiest thing to come up with an example of. All right. So tomorrow I'll have subliminal messages up, just an activity. I'd like you guys just to find some advertisements, some logos maybe, and look up some subliminal messages in them. All right. I always like this assignment. It's pretty neat. All right. You guys good? Cool. All right. So, yep, I caught the fish yesterday. I was pumped.